Okay, day 10, and it's Sunday night, and I would like to go to bed, so hopefully this one goes pretty fast, but you never know. Um, so that's me. And let's see what day 10 says. The stars align. So your navigation system simply isn't capable of providing walking directions in the Arctic Circle, and certainly not in 1018. I'll suggest an alternative. In times like these, North Pole rescue operations will arrange points of light in the sky to guide missing elves back to base. Unfortunately, the message is easy to miss. The points move slowly enough that it takes hours to align them, but you have so much momentum that they only stay aligned for a second. If you blink, it might be hours. You can see these points of lines. It feels like this was a problem last year, position and velocity. Anyway, record their position and velocity, the relative change in position per second. Coordinates are all given from your perspective. Given enough time, these positions and velocities will move the points into key keys of message. Rather than wait, you decided to fast forward the process and calculate the points of spell. So here's a bunch of stuff. Position, velocity, position, velocity, position, velocity. Each line represents 1 point. Positions are given as x, y pairs. X represents how far left or how far right the point appears. Y, 0 seconds. Each second the point's velocity is added to its position. So a point with velocity is this. Moving upwards. Over time, the points will move like this. After 3 seconds, high. Of course, your message will be much longer and take many more message to appear. What message will eventually appear in the sky? That's curious. Okay, so one, we have to figure out how to track these things, which is exciting. And two, we need to figure out how to figure out when they've formed a message. So we'll, what is this thing called? Stars align. Rename day 10 stars align.py. So as always, I will do raw and do I want to make up name tuples for these things, because we're going to be mutating them, and so I'm just going to use a regular class now. Class particle. Are they particles? They are points of light. I'll call them stars. So class star. So let us do this and zoom in a little bit. So it's going to give us an x, which is an int, and a y, which is an int, and a dx, which is an int, and a dy, which is an int, and self.x equals x, self.y equals y, self.dx equals dx, self.dy equals dy, and we want to have a step and num steps, which is an int, and we'll set that equal to 1, and that's going to be none. We're going to mutate these in place and say self.x plus equals num steps times self.dx, so that's its x velocity, self.y plus equals num steps times self.dy. That's fine. And then finally, we want to be able to get one of these from a line, which will take a line, which is a string, and we'll return a star, and that is a static method because you're not calling it on a particular star, you're calling it to make a star. And let me think about how I want to do this. So let's import RE, and regex equals position equals, and I'm going to cheat a little bit and just do this. Velocity, it's not cheating, but it's not like the world's best regex. So just grab what's in the angle brackets, And so now what I can do is I can say position velocity equals re dot match the regex and the line dot groups, and so what do I want to do? X y equals int n for n in position dot splits on the comma, and this is convoluted, but dx dy equals int n for n in velocity dot split on the comma. So I'm pulling out, here -3, 6, here 2, 1. I'll split on the comma, apply int to it, and then I can say return star of x, y, dx, dy. And so stars equals star dot from line in raw dot split on new line, and let us run this and make sure that it works. Day 10 name line for line. So let's run this again and let's get these stars. And stars don't have any way of representing themselves. So let's do this. Self goes to string, a return f. Star self.x, self.y, self.dx, self.dy. So obviously if I were going for the speed championship, I would not bother with that. So this says the last one is -3, 6, 2, -1. -3, 6, 2, -1. Okay, so that's right. And now what do I want to do? I want to show some stars, which is a list of star, and that is going to be a string. And so what I want to do is I want to say locations is an empty dictionary for star in stars. And what do I want to do? I want to say locations star.x, star.y equals 1, and let me see how they draw this. They do it with pounds and periods. And let's say min x equals min star.x for star in stars, max x equals max star.x for star in stars, min y equals min star.y for star in stars, and this just tells us how big our grid needs to be. Max y equals max star.y for star in stars. And now what I want to do is say grid equals pound if, and I'll just set these equals true, but it doesn't really matter. Actually, I'll just make this even a set. So I'll say locations dot add, because it's really a set. And that way I'll do pound if x, y in locations, else period. And it's possible I will have this rotated 90 degrees for x in range min x, max x plus 1 for y in range, min, y, max, y plus 1. And then I want to return join with new lines, join, and then join each row for row in grid. So I think that's right. And I don't have from typing import list. Show stars. Sequence item 0 expected string instance. I want to join the row for row and grid like that. I think that's probably right. Let's run it again. Print show star. Okay, so let's see. Does that look exactly like what they have? It actually does. So after 1 second, after 2 seconds, after 3 seconds, after 4 seconds. For I in range 4, let's say, print I, print show stars, and then for star in stars, star dot step, I think is what I called it. Yes. So now let's just run this. Stars is not defined because I have a big star. Stars. Okay, and so one thing that's interesting here is you can see that this grid is much smaller, right? So one thing we could try is the following. And this is where immutability would help. But let's try this. Def show smallest grid stars, which is a list of star, and it is going to go none. And so what we will do is we will say size. I'm going to call this show. Grid equals show stars. Let's say while true. Grid equals show stars. Size equals len grid plus len of grid 0. So we'll just do, actually we'll do times. So that's how many things are in the grid. And let's say min size equals float infinity. So we'll just start and let's say prev grid equals none. So if the size is bigger than the min size, so the size should be actually, you know what? I don't want to do this either. So let me just let me get this and save it, and do something just to check myself. So let's go here and do day10.text, save it. Okay, and so let's go with open day10.text as f, lines equals line.strip for line in F, and then stars equals star from line for line in lines, and then let's say for blank in range 10,000 for I. Let's do that. Grid equals show stars. Oh, and actually this has new lines in it, so I was doing it wrong anyway. Print I len grid. So let me try that and see what happens. And this is in the data folder. So let's do that. And something is going very slowly. Let me do that and try it again. Okay, so I actually don't want to form that grid because it's taking a long time, and that's so. Let me do the following: def grid size of stars, which is a list of star, and that'll return an int. So let me do this, and so return max x minus min x times max y minus min y. There's no real reason to do that. So print I grid size of stars, and then for star in stars, star dot step. And I can probably even do star dot step 10, and let's just see what happens. And so where did the grid size get to be the smallest? It got to be the smallest at around 1039. So 4 star in stars. So let's do this. 4 star in stars. Star dot step, and it was 10 times. So 1038, 10380. And now I know that it's sometime in the next 10 times 2. So 4 I in range 20. 4 star and star. So let's do print 10380 plus I, and then print grid size of stars, and then let's step them. So let me try that and run it again, and you can see that I should have printed like that. So so 10391. So that's clearly the smallest one. So let us just 10391, and then print show stars. So let us try that. BFF, I have to squint real hard at that. BFFCNXE. BFFCNXE. Is that right? BFFZ. BFFZ CNXE. BFFZCNXE. Okay, so right answer, 1 gold star, rank 184. That's not too bad. Continue to part 2. Good thing you don't have to wait, because that would have taken a long time, much longer than the 3 seconds in the example above. Impressed by your sub-hour communication, the officer curious, exactly how many seconds would they have needed to wait for that message to appear? Is that just what I did? I mean, is that just this number? I think so. Okay, that was weird. Usually part 2 requires you to do more work, but today it's hard to imagine how you would have solved part 1 without having come up with that. So there's something slightly unsatisfying about that, because there was a lot of eyeballing, and it would be nice to just run a program that spits out the answer instead of having to do a little bit of fishing for, okay, how many time steps is it, how many time steps is it. But the stepping forward is actually pretty easy. And then the key thing here, I guess, was just noticing that, or making an educated guess that the smaller the grid all the stars fit in, the more likely it is to say the word. And so if we just look for what is, and if they're all moving in all these different directions, eventually they'll get close to each other, and then they'll start moving away from each other again. So if we just look for what is the smallest that they ever get, then either probably that or something close to that is going to be when they say a word, and then just printing what they show. So that was relatively straightforward, except that it's hard for me to read this. I got to squint. Anyway, so that's 22 minutes. That's actually that's one of the faster ones. So that's good, because it's a Sunday night. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. So get add data, get add day 10, get commit day 10, get push. And then the other thing is just that I use this regular class because I wanted to mutate it, and you can't mutate name tuples. So this is one of those cases where seemed like a good idea. So anyway, that is done, and it's all uploaded for your enjoyment. And find me on Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. Thanks for watching. That one was relatively painless, which is good. And I'll see you guys probably tomorrow. I guess I'll do the next one tomorrow, I would assume. All right, cool. Have a good night, everybody. Good night.